So, welcome to Let's Talk Dreams podcast, where your goals, your dreams, and aspirations take center stage. I am your host, Dr. Carla Franklin, and I am so excited about this episode on today. We have a very special guest, the author of He Called Me Ugly, none other than the person of Yolanda J. Murray. Welcome, Yolanda, to our podcast on today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Franklin, for having me. I'm so excited. This is my first podcast, just to be transparent. So I'm
Awesome.
excited to be able to do it with you. And I really, really appreciate you entrusting my story to your audience. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity.
I am truly excited and thank you for being here. I'm excited that it's your first episode and we're just going to see the sky is the limit. There's, to what opportunities that we look forward to being birthed out of this experience. It was my pleasure just to actually walk with you through your journey of writing. But I want you to be able to share with our audience, just your personal journey about self esteem. And if you would share that with us.
My personal journey is kind of strange because when people see the accomplishments I've made in my professional career, they definitely don't expect to hear anything about a self-esteem challenge. I took a look at myself and some of the negative thoughts I was having about being either the perfect administrator, the perfect um, teacher, just all of those kind of things. And I could hear the negative voices telling me, you're not good enough, you're not doing a great job, you're not this, you're not that. And as I dug into those emotions, and said to myself, you've got to change how you're thinking because, a lot of people would appreciate being in the position that you are. And
Mhm.
so I really started reflecting on where is all of this negativity coming from? And it's not something that just showed up, but it's something that I think I got to a place where I was ready to address it. As a teenager, um, I never felt pretty enough. I never felt that I was one of those people that people would just, flock to.
Right.
However, I was accomplishing a lot of things in high school, and I would be kind of quote unquote what somebody might consider popular. So it was really living a dual self-esteem thing, where at certain times I was so confident, so ready, so sure. And then other times, even though my outside was projecting that, my inside was at a struggle and trying to compose myself a lot of times that hoping people didn't notice those insecurities. And so my journey really just started with reflecting on those things and thinking about the young women that were coming behind me and
Mhm.
how those young ladies, and I'm going to even add in young men, they look
Right.
at accomplished people, they look at people who seem to have quote unquote success, and they have this myth that those people haven't had to struggle. And so when they themselves were struggling and they themselves are finding it a challenge to fit in, to be who they are, to feel comfortable in their own skin, they felt like something was wrong with them. And so
Right.
I felt like, I really need to share my story because I didn't want others to be struggling for the length of time I was struggling. I felt like the sooner I could share, maybe somebody could connect younger in their youth and, would help really give them some confidence as they move forward into their professional life.
Wow, that's really impressive because when we look at it, people struggle with self esteem throughout, their whole life experience, wanting to be a part of the clique or wanting to be a part of a certain group, and sometimes not feeling that value within themselves that, like, I fit here. but it's something that we all struggle with. And it seems as though, we can have great accomplishments in our career, great accomplishments in life, but still have these hidden internal struggles that, we deal with on a consistent basis. Would you agree?
I totally agree 100%. And that was my situation and my story. If you saw me with my family, as far as my siblings and my mom and cousins and those things, you would see this confident person talking, leading, creating. But when I was in a room full of other creative people or people that I felt were more skilled than myself, I could feel myself shrink back.
Mm.
So that was a big piece also of what I needed to deal with. I needed to be okay with feeling comfortable with the skills I definitely had and not feel like it wasn't adequate.
Okay, great. Now, so you've written your book, you're writing in the writing process, and you come to the point where it's time to decide what the title of your book would be. What made you choose the title, He Called Me Ugly?
So, when I was in the process, I was also kind of traveling back through time to try to
Mhm.
get to the root because a lot of times when we are acting a certain way as adults, those habits didn't start as adults. Things have happened that are driving some of those reactions and some of those emotions. And so I really, on my own, just really took time to think like, what is it that I would consider to be a turning point or something that really was the root of why I felt insecure. And it took me back to when I was in second grade, and I thought about a situation where I had my first boyfriend, Sammy Lee, as a second grader.
Mhm.
And I was excited. I got a chance to go to Sammy's birthday party. And at his birthday party, he was bragging about me being his girlfriend. And one of the male friends of his turned around and was like, who, her? She's ugly. And it just it's such a vivid memory for me. I remember all of the emotions that came up. I mean, I chased him. I was trying to beat him up, so I obviously had a lot of emotion, aggression going on as a result of it. But as I moved through my preteen years and teen years, those mean words came up more times than I would want to count. And it just seemed to always have the same reaction where it felt like it was such a cutting, having those words be said to me. And so I chose that title because I wanted to provoke people um, to think about it. He called me ugly. Almost all of us have, there's probably a small percentage of people who have just been pretty from their, from birth, but
Right.
but a lot of people have dealt with being called something,
Right.
being called ugly. Someone was called being, called fat. Someone was called, sloppy. Someone was called something. But we all could identify with being called something. And so I felt like this title would resonate with people. And it seems to have done just that because when I have conversations with people, they always ask me about the title.
Right. Wow. I'm just thinking just what resonates, and you really have to be open to taking that journey just back to that place of finding out why we respond as adults in the situations that we do. And if we're honest with ourselves, like you said, to take that journey back, we can see that something triggered that emotion and something triggered that. Just sitting here as you were talking, I thought about, how we often like to keep our hair done. I remember growing up as a little girl, always being talked about my hair. My hair was short, and it was like, look, what are you going to do with your hair? And what is that? And oftentimes it's a self image.
Yeah.
how you present yourself, because you don't want nobody talking about your hair and how you look anymore. So going back to those places really will resonate with our audiences. And I hope someone is listening today and does not exhibit the fear of looking back, because it gives so many answers to help us to really be in this moment, in this space, with the confidence and the assurance necessary to really make life count and matter in these moments. So, thank you for such a powerful story that I'm sure will resonate with our audience time and time again. And so, as you were writing, I noticed that you shared a community of the Terrific 25. And if you would just share with us why you picked this community and what is it that you learned as a result of this community that impacted your story.
So, I when I started to write the book, a lot of times, a lot of books I've read, they do give you the background statistics of why something might be important, especially in scientific books or experiences. They try to paint this picture of why this is a good question to ask or why this is a good thought. So, I did not want the book to be bogged down with a lot of scientific explanations and percentages and those kind of things because I wanted anybody that could pick the book up to have an opportunity to read it with ease and identify. So I already started writing the book. I actually was like probably 5 chapters in
Okay.
before the Lord really said to me, go back and choose 25 women across different ages, different cultures, different professions, different levels of education, and talk to them about their self esteem journey. So I put the brake on everything.
Hmm.
And I went through my contact list on my phone and thought about people who fit some of these different demographics and the
Hmm.
relationship I had with them. And my hope was that because I had a relationship with them, they'd be willing to trust me with their story. And I was right.
Wow.
So I sent out my request and explained what I was doing.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, no one I asked said no, not one.
Amazing.
They all
Mhm.
were in agreement from the very start. And I shared with them that I would talk with them and record our session, but that it would be something that would only be for my eyes only or ears only, so that I could have that background as I continued writing the book. And so they were trusting of that as well. And I basically ask them one simple question. Tell me about your self-esteem journey. Tell me
Mm.
about what it was like for you growing up.
Yes.
And they were expecting like a list of questions or a questionnaire or something like that, but I wanted to keep it simple. Let's tell me your story because I felt like if I gave them a list of questions, I would just box them in. And I
Right.
didn't want that. I wanted them to feel free to share as much or as little as they felt comfortable sharing. And some folks, I blocked out 30 minutes. And
Okay.
some folks used every single second of that 30 minutes. I mean, I had to stop them because I wanted to make sure that I stayed true to the 30 minutes and being respectful of their time. But it wasn't that they couldn't have talked longer or talked more.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I had them the Terrific 25 as I listened to their stories myself.
Hmm.
It was just so moving. And it just affirmed for me that people knowing this people's stories can really have an impact on you. It
Yeah.
can give you things to connect to. It can help you to work through emotions that you're trying to work through. It can allow you to see that you're not the only one. And it just was so encouraging because
Wow.
knowing the self-esteem struggle that they shared allowed me to really understand that you can have these struggles, but you can achieve. You can push beyond. what has happened in your past and what you've dealt with. And those things make you the whole person that you are. So
Right.
this terrific 25, they were women of excellence, women that I really honor because of just what they accomplished and what they were able to share transparently with me. And then some of those sessions, they did become emotional for
Mhm.
them because they hadn't verbalized some of those things out loud.
Right.
And so it was really just a moving experience within itself.
Yes.
So then I had the challenge of taking all of this emotion, all of these interviews, and trying to find out where common threads were and what things were echoed consistently throughout the women. And I tried to do that in my book as well, kind of share what things they all mentioned or that were prominent in most of their stories and try to share that, all while trying to keep their identities
Yes.
confidential. So, I would say that all of them have read the book, and not
Okay.
one of them has been disappointed with the presentation of the information, and even their stories. They recognize their own story, but that was for them to recognize, not for anyone else. So, it was just I was grateful that the Lord told me to do that because I felt the impact, and I believe that a number of readers have asked me for more about the Terrific 25. So I've been really trying to figure out how to do that without giving away identities.
Wow, I can just only imagine just really thinking about it. It's like uncovering the hidden places that we've had, just being able to listen in written form what probably has been resonating in someone's heart. That they can tap in and say, hey, this is my story, or this was how I was feeling, or this was the experience that I encountered when I went into the boardroom, or when I went in, to a setting where there were other like minded people. Feeling comfortable enough to own the room without being either too high or too low. It's just teaching you the confidence, like you said, to be able to know, like, hey, I'm not in this alone. There are other people who have succeeded in careers, succeeded in their families, that still had to struggle in one capacity or another. So I encourage our audience, if that sounds like you, I would encourage you to get the book. He called me ugly, because whatever ugly means to you, you certainly will leave with tools and strategies to be able to help you to pursue your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations, and not feel like you are a single person on an island alone, and that nobody understands and have been through the experiences that you've had.
I wanted
And
to also add, Dr. Carla, that um, my experience with the Terrific 25 also led to my cover of my book. And I don't know if you can see it well, but you notice we have so many
yeah.
different types of women.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one of my sisters-in-law is a practicing Muslim.
Okay.
And she was really appreciative to the fact that I had a Muslim young woman or someone that appears to be of that faith on my
Mm-hmm.
cover. And
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to have it representative of so many different people because actually the Terrific 25 were representative of a
Yes.
cross section of women.
Wow. And just like you said, Yolanda, everybody, women deal with the same issues, and you were not like, pain doesn't select you out by color. It doesn't select you out, by your religious beliefs. We're all in these experiences, no matter, what your demographics are. And so to be able to speak to that is very powerful because at some point we all unite as women, right? No matter how old we are, the young will get older and they'll have those same experiences. It may not be the same experience that you have, but it becomes a marker and an indicator that I have some resource that
Mhm.
I can pull from to be able to know that I don't have to stay here, but that and I know you talked about it in the book, there's a lifeline. And so we become lifeline lifeguards to be able to help another woman, help another, man who deals with self-esteem as well as you noted. So thank you for just making it collective about the woman in general. We are certainly appreciative to that. Now, share with us some more like strategies and tools that for the person who is still struggling, who feels like they don't know how to tread the water and they don't know how to overcome the adversity. What are some of the tools and strategies that you have that can help them overcome and learn how to be strategic and confident in different arenas?
So one thing I mentioned in the book is being able to go to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a suggestion. I know that some people have different emotions or feelings about it, but one of the things I felt that helped me was going to a therapist because a lot of times they have been trained to ask questions that you don't think to ask, the kind of things that make you ponder, the kind of things that you might avoid.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a skill of helping you dig deeper than just superficial responses, and they ask the whys and they ask the how long have you felt that way and those kind of things that really help you to dig a little deeper and try to be honest with yourself. That to me was one of the most valuable tools. Another one is having really significant friends
Mm-hmm.
that I could trust to be able to be transparent with. I
Mm-hmm.
could bare my soul and feel like I wasn't going to be judged by how I felt and the experiences I had, but that they would be open to hear what I was sharing and they wouldn't be just yes people. They would say, so you're being too hard on yourself about that, or you need to really rethink this particular thing. And I felt like having those people in my life really did make a difference because it didn't allow me to have a pity party about things that I felt, inadequate about. They would remind me of things that I do well and things that I have grown in areas that they've seen growth just from, the years and years and years of friendship that we've had. And
Mm-hmm.
so they provided that different perspective so I didn't get stuck
Wow.
and just thinking one way. So having really close friends that, that are the kind of friends that are willing, because sometimes we have close friends, but they just don't know how we're going to take it if they tell us the truth about certain things. And
Right.
that kind of puts the onus on us that if you have that special friend, you got to be vulnerable and trustworthy and be okay with them telling you another perspective.
Yeah.
Another tool was taking some time and just reflecting on myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this will help a lot of people. I did a leadership class and I didn't expect to gain this particular tool from that class, but in the class is John Maxwell class.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about taking time and writing down 100 things that are good about you.
Wow.
And that process in itself, or that activity really helped me to become more positive about Yolanda.
Wow.
And really, once I got to a place where I felt like I couldn't complete the 100, I asked my family members, and they were like able to rattle off, other things that I hadn't even considered. And then I branched out a little bit more to certain friends, and they were able to rattle things off. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I could write that down. And so that activity in itself allowed me again to see things through a different lens. And so I think that tool was so valuable because it was unexpected, the
Yes.
value that it would bring. Another tool I would say that was shared with me through the Terrific 25 was having ways to change your thinking. You know, I
Mhm.
talked earlier about the negative thoughts I would have and the negative things that, not being a great teacher or wanting to be better or not being a great principal, wanting to be better. But having an opportunity to um, change that language to telling myself, hey, you're doing a really good job with that. Oh, look how much better you're handling such and such and such. And,
Mhm.
really changing my negative talk to a more positive talk. And that tool really, to me, made a difference. And it was one that I could truly see because as a principal, to me, it's a more solitude type of position than people might think. You
Mhm.
may engage with your staff and engage with your students and engage with your families, but there's certain things you just can't talk about with everybody. There's certain things you just can't be a part of in order to keep your professional distance, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So it's changing my talk, my from a negative to a more positive talk helped me to be okay with the solitude of that particular position. So
I hope you guys are listening. These were some amazing tools and strategies to be able to help you move from where you are to a better mindset, if you will, of just being able to engage in your goals, right? And so, oftentimes, therapy used to be taboo in certain communities, but they have, like Yolanda said, they have the tools and the resources to really help you navigate the terrain sometimes to get to a higher altitude of thinking and a higher altitude of living. And certainly your community and your family, they speak volumes because they help you to see who you are, and oftentimes from a perspective that you wasn't really looking at for yourself. I would challenge you, like Yolanda did, and I think I'm gonna do this myself, to see 100 positive things about myself, that you can look at about yourself that would help to build the person and the confidence that you desire. You may be confident at this level, but just imagine that there's more opportunities available and waiting if we learn how to elevate our self-esteem. So I encourage you, sir, ma'am, take advantage of the opportunity to sit down and call your friend, call your neighbor, call your family members, and just help to build this resource so that you might be empowered, to move forward in your desired goals, your profession. You might have even been thinking about, a promotion, or you might wanted to do something different in your career and you felt like you weren't good enough. Well, these are tools that you can implement to help to raise the bar called you. And so, Yolanda, I am certainly so grateful, for you sharing those tools and resources with us.
So I wanted to add something else, and I guess I don't think of it as a tool because it's such a second part of who I am or a main part of who I am, but my spiritual walk,
Mhm.
my
Yes.
spiritual relationship is a tool that I do talk about in the book. And a number of the Terrific 25 brought that up as well, that
Mm.
their spiritual relationship with the Lord really made a difference in their journey. Um, some people said they were painfully shy, but when they recognized who the Lord said they were, it just put a boldness in them and transformed who they were. Others said that it was the anchor that helped them when they were in that challenging place to start to um, pull themselves out of those ruts and pull themselves out of the depression or all of the other things that were coming from this negative self-esteem. And so I don't want to belittle that. I think I don't always mention it first because it's such a it's kind of like you just it's one of those things you just do. It just is. That's like, trying to separate it out like it's a separate thing, but it's never separate. It's so ingrained and so such a part of me that I don't think about it as separate. But it was highlighted by a number, the Terrific 25, and I totally agree with them that if it was not for my spiritual walk and being able to have that relationship with the Lord, I could easily have been one of those people who, you know, just got so down on myself that I would never turn around to think about how he sees me. So to
Yes.
know that I'm the apple of his eye, you know, you can't be, if you're his apple, you can't be all bad.
Right,
So,
exactly. And the wonderful thing about, our spiritual growth and our relationship with God is that He tells us that we are fearfully and we're wonderfully made. And if you have His validation, then that really seals the deal, and it does anchor you, and it anchors your hope to be able to have confidence that you might feel comes from nowhere, but it's the grace of God that really pushes you into your purpose and into your desires. And so, one of the things that I think is important is when we talked about the mindset, it's like we have to let this mind be in us. And from an education background, when you always think about the word let, it means that you're going to encounter some resistance. You're going to encounter something that, opposes what you're doing. But we have to be intentional. The kids out on the playground and say, let me up, leave me alone. There's resistance in your movement. So I want our audience to know that don't be stopped by the resistance. You have the power, you have the ability to overcome these obstacles of low self-esteem so that you can raise the bar. So Yolanda, as we get ready to wrap up, I would like do you have your book with you? If you could just share that with
I
our
do
audience and tell them how they can get a copy for themselves.
absolutely. So my book is available on Amazon.com. You can also get in touch with me through um, on Facebook with Yolanda Murray. Also on Instagram, Yolanda Murray. Keeping it simple. Um, and I will do a signed copy, and we can work through, some other digital means of payment, and you can get a signed copy, but you can get it from Amazon as well.
Awesome. So there you have it. He called me ugly, a journey to rising above low self esteem so that you can make the impact in life, in your career, and in your profession, that there would be no limits. Yolanda, she did touch on it a little bit, but she is a retired principal in the elementary school system. So you can see in her book as she shares her journey, and she has had some amazing opportunities that will just really resonate with you because she doesn't leave you in a place of low self esteem. She lets you know, look at me now, so that you can see that there are no limits and there are no boundaries to what you're able to do and become as a result of just tapping into the strategies and the resources that she shared with us on today. So I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and I would ask that you would consider to subscribe with us as we share more content so that you can be empowered, that you can be encouraged, and that you might be informed so that you can pursue your goals and your dreams. So thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Dreams today. Until the next time, I encourage you to keep dreaming and take actionable steps towards your goals, because it's really about doing, responding effectively with your abilities to maximize success. Until next time, I'll see you soon.